Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Nigeria's desire to address critical economic issues has been largely responsible for some of the tough decisions taken by government to save more resources in meeting development needs and expanding the frontiers of investment, which invariably will attract more income into the tax net. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will explore the benefits of fuel subsidy removal and measures put in place to cushion its aftermath. We'll be engaging the thoughts of those who should know, but first, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Nina Oko.
Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic.
Recognizing the need to chart a new course, President Bola Tinubu, while taking oath of office, emphasized on critical reforms including the removal of petrol subsidy.
Subsidy can no longer justify its ever-increasing cost in the wake of dry resources.
The move, while promising long-term benefits, has also brought temporary hardships on Nigerians as the country navigates through economic restructuring. In a bid to cushion the effects of the petrol subsidy removal, President Tinubu had unveiled his administration's plan for a monthly 8,000 naira transfer to 12 million of the poorest households in the country for 6 months. However, following public feedback and sentiments expressed by Nigerians, the president decided to reevaluate the program and present the entire palliative package to the Nigerian people. The president also ordered the immediate release of fertilizers and grains to 50 million farmers and households across the country, including the Federal Capital Territory. With the increase in the Federation account allocation for the month of June to 1.9 trillion naira, 790 billion naira out of the sum was saved for the establishment of Infrastructural Support Fund for the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. This, many believe, will go a long way in enabling socio-economic development.
And in doing this, some principles were agreed to balance between investment and consumption. That if we have any fiscal surplus that is generated, that we must balance, have an appropriate balance between what part of it to consume in the immediate versus what proportion of it to invest for medium to longer term structural changes.
As the administration continues to prioritize ways to empower the citizenry, the National Economic Council, at its fourth meeting chaired by the Vice President, threw its weight behind the planned distribution of grains and fertilizer to Nigerians.
We have some buffer stock that is already there with NEMA, and the Council has directed the states will be allocated immediately substantial portion of food items, grains, and so on and so forth for distribution, so that the prices of foodstuff will come down and it will be given at a subsidized rate or at the rate at which it is acquired from NEMA, because it is free. Of course, CBN also, because of their Anchor Borrower program and the program they had in agriculture, they have a large stock of rice and other grains that are going to make available within 1 week.
The Council also resolved to support enhanced engagement between state governors and the leadership of the labor unions across the state and proposed the provision of the cost of living allowances to be paid to civil servants in both the state and federal civil services.
If the federal government decides to do the same cash transfer, for example, we're recommending that they should do so using the framework of the states and local government that are nearer to the people.
That will be based on their social register of the states, because it is states, that are better positioned to do that enumeration, so they can ensure the integrity of the social register.
With the palliative program under review and additional support for farmers and households in the pipeline, Nigerians anticipate measures that will alleviate economic pressures and improve their overall well-being. And as the government fine-tunes its approach, it is expected that the final outcome will strike a balance between fiscal responsibility and providing meaningful assistance to those in need. In Abuja, Neka Oko.
Well, that report by Neka Oko sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Mr. Lawali Fasoya is the Director General, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDA. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me also introduce Jalo Ibrahim, who is the Permanent Secretary, Finance from Gombe State. He joins us via Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening, Cyril. Thank you for having me.
All right. And here in the studio, we have Ogbonna Okuku. He is investment and economic development expert. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Let me also welcome to this program Apera Yowakwa. He's the former National Coordinator, National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Cyril.
And also joining us via Zoom from Lagos, I believe, is Alexa Wilcox, a public affairs analyst. Alexa, good evening.
Good evening, Cyril. Thanks for having me. It's my utmost pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, you now know our guests tonight. Just a quick reminder that at some point you can join in the discussion, but when we get there, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let's start off the conversation from the studio here in Abuja as we turn to our guests who are here and ask to have their thoughts on the palliative package which was announced. This package that's meant to ease the hardship brought about by the removal of a subsidy on petrol particularly. So we start up this conversation with the Director General of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, SMEDA. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you say to the measures that have been announced as those that will ease the pains and the immediate sufferings brought about by the removal of subsidy? I know that all across the country there are still conversations going on how best to do it, but on a broad scale there was an announcement of certain measures that the government has put in place which should begin to impact on the populace and then ease the immediate pains.
Well, as an agency of government in charge of MSME development, the area of focus that delighted us is the issue of MSMEs being able to access single-digit interest loan. You know, because this is most banks don't want to touch MSMEs, and they believe that they are risk averse and all that. But with the introduction of a single-digit interest rate, we believe that this will cushion a lot of effect of the subsidy removal. Either two, you know, if you go to commercial banks, you be accessing loan at 25%, 30%, some 18%, which is usually the problem because MSMEs cannot afford such loans. But the fact that we will now have single-digit interest loan, it's really, really going to cushion the effect for MSMEs. And it's not only that. The fact that the government has declared an emergency in the agri-sector, food production, is also very good for the MSMEs because a lot of our MSMEs are into agribusiness. And this is an area, once we have food on the table, it's going to really enhance, this sector, because it means that people in agribusiness, that's where a lot of raw materials are drawn. And then in terms of a food production, so if that is we are able to solve that as a government, it will go a long way. So it's not just about palliatives in terms of giving money. If we are able to solve food problem, if we are able to enhance agri sector through fertilizer, giving them fertilizer, giving them high-yielding crops and all that, at the end of the day, it's just that we have to be patient. We are going to have a lot of dividends that will, assist MSMEs to grow. So we shouldn't be looking at the negative side alone. So key to this is this issue of single-digit interest, which is coming on board. And as an agency of government in charge of MSME development, we are also promoting common facility centers. And these common facility centers, the idea is if we have common facilities in organic clusters, like if you go to Ebonyi and you're able to give common facilities to the rice cluster, you give them the stoners, you give them rice polishing equipment and all that, it means that individual rice producers do not have to invest in electricity, they do not have to invest in buying generators, in getting diesel to run their business. If there are common facilities, it means that they can come and use the common facility and save their capital for marketing or for further investment into production. So these are measures that will really help SMEs in this period of a subsidy removal.
All right, thank you. We'll return to some of the issues you raised, but let's go over to Gombe and put the next question to our guest, Jalu Ibrahim. And easily, the federal government has rolled out certain measures that should begin to ease the pains. But of course, the states will have to key in, and there have been discussions. We know that state governments are also working out something for their states, taking in the peculiarities of those states and within what they can do. So tell us how the state, your state particularly, how you keen into this?
Thank you, Cyril, and pleased to have you. I just wanted to let you know that as you are aware, the state government is actually keen into the federal government policy. For example, in Gombe State, when the federal government was preparing the 2023 budget, it was mentioned that the subsidy removal will terminate by the month of June. Now, Gombe State immediately begin to plan that, knowing that the subsidy removal is going to end by June. And a lot of provision in the 2023 budget was made in Gombe State in order to ensure that support is made through the social protection policy of the state, which was launched in order to support the vulnerable. And going by the social register, which is all over the country, all the states have the social register. And this social register is supported by the World Bank and NASCO at the national level, where mostly the vulnerable are registered. And it's a matter of understanding the moment the federal government, whether the transfer or the support by the grains or the fertilizer, it will easily reach the vulnerable, because we have the social register that we all mind these poor persons within the state. It's all over the country. So it's a matter of just keying in and supporting those who who are less privileged. And as I told you earlier on, Gombe State government knowing fully that the subsidy removal is going to end, is going to start by July. Provision has been adequately provided in the 2023 budget of the state to ensure that there is support provided for the poor.
All right, I'm glad you touched on the matter of the social register, which you were able to capture who you might describe as the poorest of the poor. I know that at the national scale, some of the states had expressed reservations about the national register, preferring to use their own mechanisms to determine who qualifies as the poorest of the poor. And you just said that Gombe has done that, and so you can easily reach those people. However, we'll return to you in just a moment to discuss the matter of transfers, seeing that that is under review for the time being, and to see if your state has another idea as to how to go about providing some transfer. But we'll return to you in just a moment. Let's come back to the studio here in Abuja. And well, a lot of people are expecting this to go along the same ways of what has been known as palliatives. I've heard some state governors say, no, they'd rather call it an intervention. So from your viewpoint, what do you see about these measures that have been rolled out?
Anyway, whether they call it intervention, whether they call it palliative, that's actually what they, if you want to define palliative, is actually usually an intervention, which is usually short term. There's measures brought about by government or policymakers to see how they can ameliorate the sufferings of people due to forces that have entered the programs of government, or maybe by policies of government that that affects a lot of people. So any which way, so the nomenclature doesn't really matter here. So for me, generally speaking, if it's an intervention, so it's not going to be there for a long time. So my concern at the end of the day is, what are the things that would support the wheel of development in the economy? Now, looking at the entire thing, the infrastructure support fund, that looks very good, because any which way, for us to industrialize as a nation, we need to have right infrastructure in place to make sure that, farmers can actually get to their farm. When they're done farming, they will be able to move their goods out to the factory gates and all of that. And, there is easy logistics, goods moving from one point to another. I mean, those kind of funds and those kind of, funds is very crucial. Now, the other issue which that was mentioned for me is a very critical area for me, which is the single-digit loan. I'm not to discuss how low or how high the rates are. Mine is actually the product, the structure of the product. How would an SME have what it takes to be able to get loan from any organization, be it a development finance institution, or be it from a venture capitalist, or be it from an angel investor, or be it from a commercial bank? It is not going to be so easy for an SME to approach them, because one, you need to have certain things in place, which we'll call bootstrapping. If you're not able to bootstrap, how would you even approach a financial institution to give you funds? So there has to be a well-tailored, creative financial product that will help SMEs, like it's done all over the world. For example, that's what Bangladesh did so many years ago, for them to be able to become one of the biggest exporters of apparels to the world, and footwears. Now, what did they do? They actually created what they call back-to-back LCs. Now, if you're able to have if you have some goods, if you can produce some goods, and then you can back it up with that letter of credit, you can get working capital from anywhere. So these are creative measures created to make sure that you support them, knowing fully well that commercial banks will not listen to them when they come. So you just try and create maybe an insurance policy around what they do, which can actually be covered by government, and then at the end of the day, they will be able to access loans. So for me, going through some of these processes, looking at them critically, will actually help us. Then again, the other issue, which is having to convert a lot of buses to gas, that's actually a very good one, because apart from reducing the cost of transportation, is also going to create an economy around that ecosystem, where it now becomes business for some people. And then we've not been able to do justice to our gas utilization strategy as a nation. So that will also help us, push that particular, aspect of the economy and then move it forward. So in all of this, what I'm just trying to say in essence is, let's use this as a lifeline to jumpstart certain sectors of the economy. In as much as, yes, we'll have some funds we're going to be transferring to some people who, the measures have actually hit so much, but we should look at critical, areas of the economy where we can jumpstart major economic activities with some of these funds, because it's a huge amount of money. If we do a lot of indexing within the local government, the 774 local governments, look at areas of comparative advantage. It's a small town in China. They call the place the button capital. They actually export 70% or 60%, between 60 to 70% of all the buttons, clothing buttons that is used in the world. So they are not going to be producing all the entire clothes. All they are doing is just buttons, and 80% of zips used in the world. It comes from it's from a program like this, where they said one local government, one product, that they actually created that particular economy. And today it's booming all over the world. So these are things that cannot. It's not rocket science. These are things we can actually sit down, think critically, and then design products, and then at the end of the day, we'll be better for it as a people.
All right, thank you very much. We'll expand that view as we go on. But let's come to Apra Yowakwa. And well, you've heard the contribution so far. Particularly, what I want you to look at is this aspect of it, which has been put up for review now, because it almost became a controversy. The transfer of 8,000 naira cash to 12 million as the poorest of the poor. As a question over the register, how do you determine, how do you know who is the poorest of the poor? But, well, the president says that's up for review. Anyway, it's in addition to other measures which he announced. So let's hear you from that premise.
Thank you very much, Cyril, and it's a pleasure being here finally. But to say, we need to unpack a couple of things for our understanding. In times of economic crisis occasioned by either man-made or natural disasters, there are immediate measures to cushion the effect and the impact of it, to smoothing consumption. And so that's why you see in times of crisis, there's a fire here or a flood, NEMA will rush with beddings, food supplies, medicines as basic. And then you have the intermediate measures that begin to set up the structures for growth. Then finally, you have long-term measures of development that support affected and impacted families to grow. Globally, cash transfer becomes the vehicle to smoothing consumption and stimulate economic activities and economic growth. Evidence abound here in Nigeria, not outside, from cash transfer programs. I led the first nutrition-sensitive cash transfer program of the DFID government-funded program here in Nigeria, 60 million pounds. The impact of that cash transfer, evidence show that if you give if you give 1 naira to a poor and vulnerable person, 70% of it is used for food stuff, food consumption. What does that do for you? It raises the demand for food. That means supply has to come. And when supply comes, has to meet the demand, you put pressure on production. And then the small-scale businesses, the small-scale farmers earn income. So to stimulate economic growth is to put cash transfer into the hands of the poor and vulnerable. And to put cash transfer into the hands of the poor and vulnerable means that 80% of that cash will be used for food. Now 12 million homes, 80% of 8,000 naira is 6,800 naira thereabout. Push into this economy. Do the math. 6,800 times 12 million in a month. Look at the economy of scale of the amount of money that will be pumped into our economy. The economists will make the maths for you. There will be a lot to buy, there will be tax to be paid, etc. Now to your question around who and how do we identify the poor and vulnerable. The Nigerian government since 2016 started what you call the National Social Safety Nets program, funded by the World Bank, a loan of $500 million US. Now here is perhaps something many don't know. The reason that scheme was started was a learning from Shopee. When we removed oil subsidy, we brought in Shopee. Shopee program rolled and a lot of people accessed. We had challenges, we had issues. One of the principal challenges of Shopee was that we did not have a base or a database from which to source or mine those who were impacted by the effect of the removal of the subsidy at the time. And Cyril, you agree that the impact of oil subsidy removal is first felt by the urban poor. Now, who are the urban poor? Our drivers, the cameramen, the civil servants of below grade 6, the bus conductors, which suddenly transport from Nyanya to here becomes 500 naira from 50 naira. They are the worst hit. They trek all the time. What do? You target such people and you begin to give them cash transfer that pays for the rise in that transport, leaving them at the same amount of money they used to pay. So if you're paying 50 naira before and you get a cash transfer, it means that cash transfer pays for the balance of the rise of that, and you go. There are other measures as well. But how do you identify these people? The National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, NASCO, since 2016, established first a memorandum of understanding signed by each state of the Federation. That then gave the states the responsibility of developing the register. In the ministries of planning for each state of the Federation, as attested to by our colleague in Gombe, they went ahead to recruit community-based targeting teams in each of the local government of the Federation. So when you talk about to where the people where the people are or are affected most, that is where the system started, at the local government. And it was also not only at the local government. So the state teams recruit about 30 local government staffs who are community-based targeting teams. They in turn go to each community. As of today, 177,000 communities have the social register. And the beauty serially is this: the community determine who is poor. How else will you know who is poor? Amongst the three of us seated here as a community, I'll say I'm the poorest because August Smith is here and my business partner is here, but you too. But I'm the poorest, right? As a community, on the basis of our definition of what poverty is. That is what the team meets the community, divide them into 3 homogeneous groups, 1 male, 1 female, and 1 youth. They define what poverty means to them in the context of their community. So you have a community that will tell you that a family is poor when after harvest they go to scavenge for food. Or a family is poor when 10 people are living in one round hut, etc. And you know that Nigeria in itself is dynamic. 1 kilometer makes another language, a different culture, a different understanding and perception of what poverty could or is. Now, once they define the families, the youth we list, those they identify as poor, The women will list those that they identify as poor, and the adult male will identify as poor. You bring them together into plenary to harmonize the list. The beauty again, series, just so for emphasis, so that we know that it is actually community-based. In each of these 177 communities, once the list is harmonized, the community will elect one male and one female who will sign off on this list. A copy of this list is left in the community. One copy is taken by the local government targeting team and handed over to the local government enumeration team, who will come independently to enumerate these families to ensure checks and balances using a digital means through Kobo Collect. Now, there is the National Social Register is an aggregate of all the 36 state social registers. So each state of the federation has a social register. It took us from 2016 up to 2018 when I assumed office as the national coordinator. We had the social register about 350,000 poor and vulnerable households. From 2018, when the World Bank loan of 500 million US dollars started the 1st of April 2018, we raised the social register to what it is today in 5 years, to 15 million poor and vulnerable households made up of 62 million individuals. Is the most comprehensive database of individuals in this country. 138 data sets. It is interoperable with the NIM, with the BVN, and all other national databases. Siri, you will recall that in 2015, Mr. President at that time signed a white paper that all national databases must align with the NIM. That is what we do with the social register. So every individual, 62 million of those individuals, you will simply collect their information from the state social registers and give them a NIM, give them a BVN, give them a bank account, a driver's license, etc. Now the social register is so rich that in each of these households, you identify them by geo-coordinate. So it's electronic. You put their geo-coordinate, it takes you direct to the household. You will know the database also have information on the proximity of that household to the market, the availability of banks, the GSM network in that community, access to that community, which will help our SMEs to promote small industries. You have vocations. So you have those who are vulcanizers, hairdressers, pastors, teachers, etc. by vocation. So every single facet of the program, and I know later on we'll discuss what then will be the solutions for oil removal subsidy. And there are information that we worked on in NASCO even before I left, when the idea of removal of oil subsidy was muted at the last administration. Some of the ideas that we had put in place with the use of the social register to support the government.
Okay, thank you so much. Quite comprehensive, the process about determining who is the poor. But again, as you have also defined yourself, from community to community, their perspective on who actually is the poorest of the poor. So in some societies, some communities, you might find that their standard of definition slightly different from others. Well, we'll harmonize all that. Yeah. But let's go back to Alexa Wilcox, who's had the privilege of having listened to the other speakers before him, and they probably would come to us with a different perspective on the measures announced so far and how to go about lessening the pains of the withdrawal of subsidy on petrol, and of course to have at the back of the mind the state of emergency that's been declared, seeing that food is actually the #1 basic here, and that's from the statistics that Aparayo Wakwa has just rolled out. For those who get any increase in income, just about 70 or 80% of it goes to food. So let's hear you, Wilcox.
Yeah, Cyril, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Like you said, having listened to other erudite speakers and co-panelists, I think it's giving me a broader idea as to what exactly is going on. And I'm delighted with the angle you are talking about food production. Now, let me say this. we must put it in perspective or in context that what's happened now is like saying the last stage of the country deregulation of the energy sector. Remember, I think that the AGO has long been regulated. To a large extent, the DP, that's the kerosene, that's this DPK, or what they call it now, has also long been deregulated. So we are just at the last lap of the entire deregulation structure of our energy need. That's talking about the fuel consumption need, or energy as you might put it. So this is just the last stage. So as a matter of fact, for me, the hue and cry is just because this is the last stage of it, because already diesel has been deregulated, and industries, big transporters that live on diesel has already adjusted to that long ago. And even for me, I looked at it this way. Since May, when this issue of the regulation since June, let me put that by June, the price of diesel has nosedived. In fact, the price has gone down for almost about 30%, because it used to be about 800 and something naira per liter, now down to about 610, 620, depending on whoever that is structuring. So there's also some gain in that respect, because it's coming down. And so I don't see where the big transporters or the agricultural tractor users and all what should complain, because in that sense, they are also getting some advantage because of downward slide of the price. So for the PMS, which has now brought, probably a lot of people use both for transportation and for provision of domestic power, energy need. So there's also the need for us to look at it critically. Who does it actually affect? And in what capacity or in what magnitude does it affect each of the segments? Now, I like the kind of analysis that the last speaker spoke about. So in this context, it's not just to carry out a superficial analysis or living by the euphoria of the situation, whereby we just throw in money at anything because we say it's palliative. Because I've been hearing this issue of palliative right from the time of Babangida, when Babangida was president, and we're talking about when this issue of fuel price increase become, let me say, almost a regular occurrence. And the next thing you hear is going to be palliative, buses will be bought, that will be done, this will be done. This time around, it's where everybody should put on their thinking cap, roll up their sleeves, and do a real economic analysis and diversion and segmentation of how this present situation will affect each segment. We keep saying the poorest of the poor, the poorest of the poor, the poorest of the poor. Look, how does it affect them? How, in what capacity, and how will they be targeted to bring about succor? You don't just throw money because we're in the euphoria of the time that first one has been removed, therefore there's hardship. Does it affect every segment the same way? How does it affect the transporters? Does it affect the transporters? I'm talking about now the big transporters that uses diesel, that are using diesel all this while, and for which even the price of diesel has come down. Does it affect them? Now, does it affect the man living in a typical village that treks to his farm, move to his farm, and come out of his farm and live on a subsistence level of his farm? How does it affect him? So we must do these diversions, because in this country we are used to throwing money at when there is an issue. Everybody comes up with cacophony of noises and voices, and the next day the government responds by throwing money here and there, and sometimes it is counterproductive. So this is a must-do action in our country at this point. And I give credit to the president for taking the bold step to do this, which every other person seems to have shied away from or do not want to, for political expediencies or for whatever reasons. It is time for the economic managers, those that have been saddled or that have opportunity to be saddled with responsibility of economic management, to look critically. I don't want Nigeria to throw. I don't want us to throw money just at the problem. Oh, we want to give SMEs loans. Those are just superficial. How, in what capacity does this action affect the SMEs? Now, that must be a critical analysis. How does it affect the workers? What are the policy measures around now? After the governors had their meeting, I saw what Ogun State released. Anyway, some things I see in social media, I begin to also take a second look. I don't know if it's from Ogun State, but if it's from Ogun State, then something is critically wrong. Because now it is still the same of the same, dancing on the euphoria of the time, begin to want to please people, begin to want to assuage people's feelings and people's sentiments, rather than critically addressing. I think the issue of agriculture is very key. At this point in time, look, if we are saying the price of food is high, why is it high? Why should transportation be the reason at this point in time? And I'm being very, very honest. Why should transportation be the reason for transporting yam from Boko or from Benue State to Lagos? And because fuel subsidy has been removed. Now, remember, they have been using diesel. Those trucks use diesel. Those trucks are diesel driven. And as a matter of fact, diesel price has died by about 20-30%. So is it just the inferior of it that because the subsidy on PMS was reduced, therefore the man using diesel to power his to do his business now begin to jump in and want to cash in on the fact that it has been affected, therefore is affected. Meanwhile, in the right sense, he has got some rebate because that price has come down. So Nigeria must be critical in their thinking. And governors that has been saddled must be clear that it is time to roll up their sleeves. All the agencies, how, in what capacity does it affect each segment? And for me, that is very, very, that should be the starting point. Yes, I know that there should be some immediate palliative, like for the workers. Is it a salary increment? Is it a cash transfer to them because of transportation costs? And so these are some of the things that must be done in the immediate. But in the long run, we don't just need to jump on the failure. We don't need to dance by the cacophony of voices. Nigeria is a country that likes to shout. We just make noise over everything. If that affects you, it doesn't affect you. And then that confuses the leaders, that confuses policymakers, and most often than not, we dance to that tune. And I think it's time we become serious as a country. And we must classify those things and not dance on emotion or get ourselves bogged up by emotion. And then the whole essence become counterproductive. This is the time for policy thinkers, for policymakers, especially fiscal policy analysts. Fiscal policy now needs to come to play because monetary policy doesn't work in Nigeria. And I can tell you for free. I'm an accountant and I've worked and I've done a lot of study in this country. Monetary policy does not work. Now, this is where fiscal policy, fiscal authorities need to put their thinking cap. And majority of the work must be by the state governors. All right. Majority of the work is by the state governors and local and the local government level, so that we know policy targets that will affect the real people, the real segment, the real group that will be affected, and see how we can do things that will create another economy around what has happened. That is just for me.
Thank you, Alexa.
A good way to start.
Okay, fine. We'll return to you in a moment, but we also have a number of reports, and we'll take the first one in that lineup. It's coming from Lagos.
From the thorny issue of petrol subsidy and the decision to unify various foreign exchange rates in the country, President Tinubu made it clear that he is on a mission to steer the economy towards a growth path and wean it off perennial bottlenecks. However, while some of his policies have been welcomed and have excited the financial markets and investors, they have also been greeted with attendant challenges, including spiraling inflation and other economic challenges. Worthy of mention is the fact that the incumbent administration is working assiduously to provide measures to ease the situation.
Student loan policy. In a way, what is he trying to achieve with that? He's trying to provide an ambient avenue where students could have the courage to go to school, because with education they'll be able to understand government policy. These are the measures he's trying to bring on board. One, to curb the issue of budget deficit.
Reduction of excise duty on locally produced goods. I think that on the long run will help in cushioning the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy.
Lagos, the economic hub of Nigeria and West Africa, is faced with economic challenges just like every other state in the country. The state government is putting in place measures that will bring short-term succor and long-term benefits to residents of the state.
In terms of tax revenue generation, Lagos State has a particular program in place, market tax. They've taken tax collection up to the market level. You understand? Which is very, very good. A minimum of 1,000 naira from market women.
If Lagos State government, for instance, does not modify how it taxes individuals that are involved in SMEs or companies that have one thing or the other, that have one taxes or the other to pay for the state. If government does not temper, for instance, how they deal with them, you may find a situation where the SME are being choked.
Some of such measures are in agriculture, blue rail and buses.
Blue light rail, which is driven by renewable energy. It runs on electricity, so that takes out the cost of fossil fuels. Once the light rails are running on renewable electricity, it makes cost of transportation go down drastically.
While Nigerians are gradually coming to terms with the present reality of things, respondents are appealing to the federal government to be intentional with the implementation of intervention policies that will have direct impact on citizenry across the country. In Lagos, Hinginu, John Adams.
All right, that report from Lagos, and the next in our lineup comes from Kano.
Recent withdrawal of petrol subsidy in Nigeria is one of the hard and yet inevitable decisions taken by President Bola Tinubu. Hard for the attendant consequences of the decision, which the federal government described as temporary with limitless economic benefits. While government is outlining palliative measures, citizens, especially students, have continued to express their feelings. Abdurazak Nasiru Ahali is a student of Kano State Polytechnic.
Our parents usually give us the money for transport like 500 to 400, but for nowadays we are having they are giving us up to 1,000, but the money will not be enough for us, the students, to eat and to make transport.
He wants additional measures from the state government to make their studies convenient.
The transportation now, is going to be not only restricted to that child, but even the boys and even the students, universities and so on, because the effect has been felt by almost everybody, all sectors.
The initiative Baba Halilu NTA disclosed is an addition to the provision of free feeding and 2 sets of uniform to primary school pupils, as well as special transport service for female secondary school students. While the plights of Abdurazak and other students of tertiary institutions have been addressed, another plan is also underway for mass economic empowerment and skills acquisition training for youth. The measure, the Commissioner explained, is designed to minimize costs and liabilities on households. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa.
All right, at the end of those 2 reports, we're back here in the studio to continue our conversation, and we turn to the Director General of SMEDAN. We listened to the reports from both Lagos and Kano, in addition to the views that have been espoused here. But while not dwelling completely on some of the measures that have been announced, it would be recalled that the President also signed a number of executive orders, cancelling some taxes, suspending the implementation dates of some. Now, the impact of this on the business community is what we'd like to see. As you announce the palliatives on one side, and how would these actions impact businesses, particularly for MSMEs?
Well, like I said earlier, it may take some time, before we can see the positive side.
Yes, but that's the whole concept of it. If people are going through difficult times, then they want the quick
quick.
No, I understand that people
returns.
want quick wins, they want quick returns, but honestly, for SMEs, you know, now we are feeling the pains. But by the time all these things are put in place, and let me say here that some of the things that we have had are pronouncements that are still being worked out in detail. Because when he spoke about the issue of the single-digit interest and all that, that assessing it and all that will be a problem. That is why we as an agency, we are there to see how we can profile the SMEs, we can help them with their business plans and all that, so that it will not be difficult to access. Because it's a problem of access. It's not that the funds are not there. And then what do we do as an agency to make sure that even when you now access, you are able to use the fund effectively to enhance your business? So we have to fill some of these gaps by providing business development support, by turning our staff into extension workers to go out to the marketplace, to ask questions, to see what we can do, you know, to assist, to fill the gap. So all these ones are in place. And you see, when the SMEs in Nigeria, when there are shocks in the economy and all that, they are the ones that are assisting the economy to thrive. Because when you look at the demographics and all that, SMEs contribute 80% to employment in Nigeria. Currently, about 50% to GDP. So this is a sector that you cannot afford to neglect. So we know all this, and now they are feeling the pinch. But I'm telling you, with all the measures put in place, within a not too distant future, we'll start feeling the positive effect. It happened during the COVID. It wasn't that easy for SMEs, but there were some lessons learned that now turned to be positive. So we should just allow a little time, you know, to see the dividends of some of the policies that are being put in place now. And it's not just about policies, you know, the actions that will be taken in the next few days, weeks, will turn out positive for SMEs. You know, I'm quite positive. You know, I know it is not easy. The effect is so negative at the moment, but we are doing all we can to let SMEs now come together, to let SMEs now appreciate working in clusters, working as cooperatives, so that they can achieve economy of scale. So it's not something that we'll just say, okay, government has said this, it's not easy, SMEs will not be able to get the single-digit loans and all that. You know, we should allow time.
Okay. Let's go over to Gombe. Well, Jalo Ibrahim still with us, I suppose. And
that's right.
At best, a number of people who look at this say, well, it's short-term. And the thinking is about medium and long-term policies that will put paid to what has been described as the initial pains of these very hard decisions that the government has taken. Now, I know you said Gombe started planning much earlier for it all, but we like to look into the future beyond these immediate measures. As we know from past experiences, just when you think that the immediate measures might begin to ameliorate the situation, everything comes to a head and stops. So give us an insight into that. What do you see? We're looking at 6 months at the national level. Some states are saying, look, we will provide some form of relief for just 3 months.
Yes, thank you very much, Cyril. You see, the whole thing is just to provide support so that the vulnerable can navigate this short-term, problems we're going to face. And of course, in the long run, it is because there is need for massive sensitization, because we cannot just sit down here, talk to ourselves that we just have to swallow the bitter pills. People will need to understand why this has to happen. We have to get back to our localities, speak in the language they understand, so that they realize that this support government is trying to provide is not just to get them out of poverty, no, but to support them to navigate this turbulence we are going through now, the first, second, third, fourth month, maybe for the 6-month period. So what government at all levels, especially at the subnational level, that is supposed to be doing is build massive infrastructure, because the moment, not minding, of course, the continuous support, like as I said earlier on, Gombe State has developed a social protection policy meant to support the vulnerable. But in the long run, honestly, when government provides infrastructure, it solves most of the problems. And I'm sure at the subnational level now, there are a lot of resources that will be freed from the removal of the subsidy. That has started from the June FAC meeting. And these resources, if well managed, I'm very sure we will try to understand why we have to remove the fuel subsidy. And by providing the necessary infrastructure, certainly development will be everywhere, and people will just forget what has happened and move ahead. I think that, but there is need for sensitization actually, because both religious opinion leaders need to be sensitized that this is the reason. We just have to swallow the bitter pill for now in order to solve the long-term problem. Otherwise, we'll just be talking here, trying to talk to ourselves that this is the reason, while the majority don't understand what we are. So we have to reach out to the people, sensitize them, and that is, of course, the resilience we're talking about, the ability to navigate the turbulent times now. Otherwise, we'll just be talking to ourselves. But I'm very sure with the resources that will be freed, there will be going to be massive infrastructure. And the moment we have the infrastructure, certainly there will be this growth automatically.
All right, thank you so much, Jalil Ibrahim. At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we will explore other areas, and we would now open the phone lines, and so you can join in the conversation in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. The conversation has been going on behind the scenes, expectedly so. This segment The phone lines will be open. The numbers will be on your screen. Ask you to take advantage of those numbers and call in with your views. We ask that if you call in tonight, and we say it every Tuesday, and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we always encourage you to keep it straight to the point, short and simple, and not to bother too much about the greetings. A simple hello would do. Whatever issues you raise, our guests tonight will be too willing to address them. So let's start up this segment. And we do have a report we'll go to straight away as we start off. This one is coming from Enugu.
Revamping the state's gross domestic product, which has dwindled due to the shutting down of economic activities in the southeast on Mondays, is top on the government's priority list. Governor Peter Mbah hit the ground running by seeking collaboration with stakeholders in both public and private enterprises domain. The aviation, agriculture, and tourism sectors took the lead. With the hindsight that peace and security are the building blocks of development, the governor has also commenced an overdrive campaign against inimical activities of non-state actors. With this, commercial activities resumed and the people found the lost opportunity to engage in all areas of endeavor. The government has been interfacing with security agencies in the state to ensure safety of lives and property, which brought about the creation of an interagency patrol unit known as Distress Rapid Squad, DRS.
The way government have to come in, first of all, is to look into the welfare of the workers. Also find a way of regulating rents, because you find that high rate of rent is killing so many workers. Many of these houses are not newly built. So you cannot say because you have a house built about 20 years ago, you are collecting it and increasing the rent. They should have a board that will regulate rent.
Economic situation in the country now is horrible. Subsidy. But no, it's affecting the poor.
A way forward is that we must engage ourselves in so many things, skill work. One can learn how to do what is a little thing like soaps, liquid soap, all these bonds.
It is hoped that these plans, if consistently and appropriately implemented, will bring about the El Dorado that the citizens are yearning for. In Enugu, Chiegono Aro.
Right. From Enugu, we go on to Port Harcourt.
So far taken by the incumbent administration at the federal level to revamp the economy has been described by many as desperate measures aimed at making vital sectors more viable. The subsidy removal, for instance, came with unexpected difficulties for most people in view of the hike in petrol pump price. But the ability of Nigerians to cope with this so far is not unconnected to their conviction that the subsidy removal did the nation more harm than good, as only a few privileged Nigerians benefited from it, at the detriment of the ordinary Nigerian.
Nobody is supporting subsidy because it goes into private pockets of some individuals that have held this country on the neck. But to remove it, you need to think it through.
Owing to these austerity measures, government at various levels are keying into steps being taken by the federal government to ameliorate the plight of the people. And the Rivers State government is not left out. Top on the agenda is the free bus service, recently rolled out by Governor Siminalayi Fubara.
But the same vein, we call on the public, who are the end users of this scheme, to conduct themselves with decorum to ensure maximum benefit from this intervention.
I'm going to COE offer. I don't know if they will get there, but I just joined them. It's free, we are not paying.
So it's helping to reduce the cost of transportation.
To ensure unhindered movement of goods and services, while also attracting investors to River State, which will in turn create job opportunities and encourage ease of doing business. The government has flagged up the Port Harcourt Ring Road project, which is expected to link 6 local government areas.
about 6 local governments: Okrika, Eleme, Echie, Ikwere, Obiakpo, and Faga. This project is important to us.
Given the 50.15 kilometer of ring road, 6 flyovers, and a very long bridge across the Kidney Island to the sea to open up River State, make ease of doing business easy, make transportation of goods and farm materials, fishing materials to the urban areas easy.
For Antonia Nzenwa, a mother of 6 and master's degree holder who engage in sale of seasonal crops like corn and pear, her hope is that the palliative measures of the federal government will be well distributed.
But the situation of the country eventually narrowed me down to this place. I have responsibilities, number of children to provide for. So I decided to lay my hands on something to provide for my dependents.
With effective synergy between the states and the federal governments, it is believed that the palliative measures being rolled out will indeed make meaningful impact. In Port Harcourt, Gabriel Amunike.
All right, the Port Harcourt story that we just saw there, and particularly the last respondent, Ubunna, who you saw how determined that lady was to say that she had dependents, she had to lay her hands on something and do something. And that's the way it is for so many households and so many individuals. Now, certainly, these measures will come in to ameliorate the immediate pains. But there are those who also look at the other side and say, already inflation has kicked in as a result of this. Just about everything has gone up because you say almost everything is dependent on transportation. Now, the more money you push into the system now, there are those who still argue that that is likely to lead to another rise in inflation. So how do you balance this all out?
Yeah, basically, it has to be done from both sides. If you notice, if you're not increasing production and then the monies are dropped and then the same monies are chasing the few goods, in the market, the tendency of the price going up, because it's going to lead to scarcity and then prices will go up. So that's the more reason why the government in its wisdom has said, okay, let there be, food production. Let's go in, let's do a lot of, let's pay attention to food production, because, if that pressure comes, there has to be enough food to buy, because, just like we were discussing earlier, every money that comes to a poor person, all they think about is food. In the Hofstad's theory of needs, you have to think of food, shelter, food, and that's the next thing the money will go into. So pretty much, it still boils down to our activities to become more productive as a society. How do we get some of these people who are even the poorest of the poor to become productive? Because you need to also push them to, to see what they can do. What are the things they? The last respondent from person that responded from Port Harcourt. Right. The way she sounds, she doesn't sound like someone who didn't go to school. She sounded well educated and exposed. So you can imagine those kind of people. There are skills they have that we can actually take advantage of.
All right. The calls have started coming in, and we have our first caller tonight, Paul, calling in from Kanu. Hello, Paul. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My problem is this 8,000 for the parents of the poor, as it has been said. Now, to my observation, that money they are trying to pay, the politicians are just trying to pave way for themselves to share. My reason is that these parents of the poor are talking about, do they even have accounts? How did the money get to the poorest of the poor? They are talking to give one the poorest of the poor. These poor of the poor in the local villages, and these are it's very difficult to see. How did the money get to them? That is one. Two, even if it gets to them, in the amount of 8,000 naira, of family of 5 and 6, how much will they use and how much will they save? Are they using the money to feed them for the food period that they can die? Now, my own suggestion, if this money the federal government has reserved, you see what the Bombay State did, let them use this money to buy vehicles so that they can divide it for the state, so that the state can use this means to share food to the to the remaining states so that by the time the mobility is available for this food, then all these problems might be solved. Then secondly, if you see the suggestion made by the last speaker, this money, if it is truly utilized, it does not need to go to the people because it will not get to the right people. This money is meant to about how many thousand out of the 20 million we will have. How many people will get it? How are you sure that many people are going to get the money? That is my own observation. Thank you, Sir.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Well, you heard Paul, and we'll ask our guests here to respond to it, even though, even at the start of this program, we had said it, that following concerns raised about the proposed 8,000 naira, the president did say that it was up for review. But we might just leave the question of 8,000 since it's been reviewed. I think the principle behind what Paul is saying is one of the questions we had put to Abra Yowakwa about how do you access the very poor, the poorest of the poor, and his other aspect is how will the money get to them? They probably don't have accounts.
So thank you. In the last experience from the cash transfer, monies are paid through digital means, through bank accounts, and through money agents. Now, you will agree that in every of our villages, some of us visit a lot of our villages, you will find a POS machine on a market day. We send monies to our parents, all of us here, I mean, we can associate with it. You find a POS in a local market that go to market days and cash money. In the social register, for instance, you have the biodata. When you come to the bank, what would they do? They'll take your biodata, your name, sex, age, and everything, right? Then they'll take your biometrics, they'll give you an account number. Once you have an account number, you get paid. Some of us send monies to our old parents in the village who do not have bank accounts. What do? We send to the merchant who is in the village that we know that have account, right? So there are various means of getting monies across, and you have agents everywhere. But more to his question, I think what we need to do as a people is like the Smidan chief executive said, patience, understanding, and belief. We live in a country where we have general apathy on government and government initiatives. We need to begin to believe in our government. I always say this, Cyril, permit me just a second. If you do not believe in me as a person, as a government, what right do you have to think that I should believe in you? If you doubt me, I doubt you. So if you believe yourself that you have the capacity, you have the right of access to truth, then believe the next person as well and give them the benefit of doubt. Let the government roll out. Let's see where it goes first, and then we can criticize.
Fine. Let's go to the phones again. We have Chinedu who's calling in from Abuja. Hello, Chinedu. Okay, that call just we just lost that call from Chinedu. But just try to keep the calls coming through, and we'll take as many as we can here. And of course, these are the concerns that have been raised everywhere. But let's go to Alexa Wilcox, and you probably would have one or two things to say to the two questions we've. Okay, just before we take Alexa, we have Abubakar calling in from. Hello, do we still have Abubakar on the line? Hello, Abubakar. If you can hear me, just tell us where you're calling from, and then let's hear you. Well, we do hope it won't be one of those nights where the lines would be erratic, but we'll try and get them back in as much as we can. So let's go over to Alexa Wilcox, who's on Zoom. You heard the question that the caller that we've had through so far, and the concerns is raised. And now these would be the concerns of many Nigerians. Yes, it's been established, the transfer of 8,000 naira will be reviewed, but again, concerns about the method, the selection, and such matters. Okay, so Rachel is calling from Lagos. Alexa, just before you go on, let's see if we can get Rachel, who's calling in from Lagos. Hello, Rachel. Is it Rachel or hello?
Yes.
Rachel, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sir. About the fuel subsidy that is going on is affecting us, especially some of us that does not have time to support ourselves. And how much am I earning? Just 40,000. And now my transport already is taking almost all the money. I'm paying house rent. So this thing is affecting. I don't know what they are going to do. Maybe they should provide jobs for, even some of us, we are talking about they're going to provide jobs for people that have gone to school. What about us that does not have parents, that we are orphans? We are doing everything by ourselves. So we don't have these opportunities to help ourselves, go to school, feed ourselves, feed my younger ones at the same time. We need send 40,000. Please, we need help.
Right, Rachel. I suppose there are many who have these concerns that you have too. Alexa, if you're there, that's just another of the concerns.
Cyril.
Maybe you can give us a perspective.
Cyril, I'm here. Yes, Cyril, I'm here. That's why I said, in whatever programs or actions of government, at both federal and sub-national levels, they must target people like the last caller. They must identify how these affect. Now, my brother has ruled out the very, very good statistics as to how the social register was arrived at. I'm sure the last speaker was not in the mix. I mean, talking of Rachel, she was not in the mix. So nobody must have identified her because she had just given practically her problem. And it didn't start today. Her problem didn't start today. She's been earning 40,000 before the subsidy on the PMS was removed. And so she has been having pressure upon pressure in going by. So she was not, I'm not sure she was captured. So the statistics of capturing the so-called poorest of the poor, it's suspect. And that is why the first speaker from Kanu, it's very, very critical. And a lot of Nigerians are critical. Not forgetting what happened during the Shopee and during the cash transfer of the last administration, especially what happened during the COVID, during the COVID. So there is general distrust. Don't blame Nigerians. I mean, as educated as I am, I'm still having pressure in accepting certain policies of government. I am a strong supporter of this government. I voted, I campaigned for them. So whatever I'm saying is out of concern for the government, so that the government could be better. Now, people like Rachel needs to be identified. And who should identify Rachel? It is the state government and the local government. I like what the guys one of the people from Enugu said. This is a time, and I said it initially, for governors and local government administrators, because the federal is too far from you. It's too far from Rachel. It's too far from the woman in Port Harcourt that said you have to start to do something. The government, the federal, the Abuja is too far from them. Who is closer to them? It is the governor of River State. It is the governor of Lagos State that should be able to know how to moderate the state. And that's why I talk of fiscal intervention. Now, people like Rachel who will spend all her money in transportation. Now, we know that transportation is a critical need. Now, somebody like Rachel, this, who will spend all his money, all his or her money on house rent. So we know that housing is a critical need. And what can be done by the state governors? Now, do you allow the transporters in Lagos to flex Rachel simply because there have been increase in petrol price? Have you engaged the transport unions? That's what I'm talking of, practical governance. Roll up your sleeve and meeting them on the street. Have you engaged with them to know what are the real causes? How can we ameliorate even the public transport system before we start providing the government transport system to be able to cushion that? So these are the things. how can you ameliorate, how can you rein in Shylock landlords, Shylock transporters? That is what the state governor should be doing. Right. How can you rein them in so that you know that, yes, they are not taking the moment. And I just give an example last time. A man who uses truck that was run on diesel to transport yam or whatever from Benue State to Lagos, and all of a sudden increases price and said because fuel subsidy has increased, that has been removed. He is not using petrol, he uses diesel, and diesel price has come down. So these are the things that policymakers must understand the Nigerian factor. You don't throw money on you just don't throw money on a place that will not have any meaningful impact. Now, during COVID, the CBN rolled out loans for SMEs. So much intervention to SMEs. Now, what is the outcome? I know a friend who got the money, about 2.4 million, and the next time the man forgave it over, the man moved family to London. He's in London today. The money, he didn't use it for the business, he didn't pay back.
Okay.
So, throwing money on problem in Nigeria does not work.
Okay.
So we must put intervention programs that critically address, and that is why, as far as I'm concerned, public work programs.
Okay.
State governors should, because they now have more money. Public work programs, don't dash money and make the people to become productive so that they can appreciate the money you give them. Public work programs.
You know what, Alexis, we'll come back to you in a moment. We have Abdurrahman calling in from Katsina. Abdurrahman, hello.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, all. Please, I have some observation or some complaint or what will I call it, and I'm sending it to Medan.
Okay.
I think the policy of Medan is not clear to we Nigerians, because Medan has been like issuing certificates, but to be candid, we don't know the impact they have created so far. I live in Kaduna. I had a business in Kaduna. I remember when the sitting governor of Kaduna is the DG. People apply for several interventions of Medan, to the extent that people were even invited to go for training. But no any impact so far we've seen from those people that have gone through those training. Okay, coming back to the current issue of palliative sharing or subsidy or whatever I may define it as. Pleasure has been promising that they want to do this, they want to do that, they want to do that. Please, the question there is, how will they know the real people that are in the business? Is it by just registering with the open-ended certificate they are issuing, or they have another mechanism that they will use in checkmating the real people in business that will enable them to? Secondly, there is one program I'm saying right away that is going online. It's a program like in collaboration with the Bank, I think, yeah. So people are busy applying. They are applying for loan and so on and so forth. But when I go through the website, I now see that it's the same form that has been in existence for decades.
Okay.
That I'm saying recycling.
All right.
So please, I will need some clarification. We need them to clear or to give us some insight on what really is happening. Then what are their programs? What will benefit we the Nigerian community that are in business?
Right.
So
thank you,
we need
Abdurrahman.
encouragement. We need them to encourage us, please.
Okay, Abdurrahman, the DG Smedan will respond to the issues that you raised.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdurrahman. First, about the registration that you got certificate for. We started what we call MSME registration. We opened a platform, and the idea is for us to have data to work with, because the data will help us to plan. It will help us to know where the shoe is pinching SMEs. Now, that registration is still ongoing. But while it is ongoing, what we do is we issue certificates so that you have a unique identification. And then based on this identification, you will be able to benefit from some of our programs. Already, all the people registered on that platform are going to enjoy subsidized insurance for their businesses. But why a number of people have not been able to feel what we have in the offing is that we are cleaning up the data, because this is Nigeria. We have a lot of people that went on that portal and registered with wrong documentation. A number of them did multiple registration. So by the time we finish cleaning up the data, we will be able to do a lot of things. Part of the reason why we started that program is to be able to network SMEs, so that if you are producing, for example, coconut oil in Abuja, we should be able to link you up with somebody already bringing coconut to Abuja, instead of you going to Badagry. So these are some of the things, but a lot of SMEs don't understand. Once you don't give them money, they feel that you are not doing anything. Most SMEs in Nigeria, if you put 10 SMEs together and you ask them what their problem, they will tell you it's about money. But everything is not about funding. Okay. So many people have money, they start businesses, and the business die at infancy because they don't have capacity. So our capacity building programs is also based on the data we have on that portal. So this is what you should know. And this still boils down to the issue of us being in a hurry. Once everybody wants, okay, Smedan, all we want is money. It's not just about money. So that data is helping us to plan. Now we know a lot of things about SMEs through the data that we have collected. Okay. I think currently we have about 3 million people that have registered on that portal. And we have things that are coming to complement, their efforts. That is one side. He also mentioned the issue of the fund that we have with Jaiz Bank. The fund that we have with Jaiz Bank is a matching fund that is meant for people in agribusiness. A number of people have applied, but Jaiz Bank is a commercial bank, and this is not money that we want people to feel is dividend of democracy. It's funds that we want to come back. What we are doing is to use Smedan funds to de-risk the money that Jaiz Bank is matching with us, and then to reduce the interest rates so that people can access that fund at single digits. But the problem with SMEs is that the criteria we put forward, because we advertise, a number of them have not been able to meet up the criteria. Now we are reviewing so that people can easily access. But at the same time, we don't want this money to go down the drain. We want people to be able to pay back. That is what is delaying access to the fund. But I can assure you, in the next few weeks, you will be able to access once you are able to meet up the criteria.
Okay. Back to the phones now. We have Larry calling in from Lagos. Hello, Larry.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Larry. I'm calling from Lagos. Yeah. First of all, I want to give a compliment to that my guy that's sitting down on Brown, that I say is a common man. But see him is not one of us. So that is number one. Number two, when we are talking about palliative, the government should be able to come to the level to the common man. The 8,000 naira, we don't need it. Now, look at the local government level. if you come to local government, each local government, I believe we have about 700 and something local governments in Nigeria. If the government, if the president can call the whole governor in the 36 states to get a board for each local government, as the first caller just said, like 200, it will go a long way. Most of us there, most of the organs sitting down there, they have been to America or other countries, just like me as well. Because every time we see, my age is 51 years old now. But we are, as you said, we did not believe in government. When I was in Jamaica, that was in the US, in Queens, government made provision for poor people when you go to $1 store. You go to $1 store, you buy whatever you want to buy, you are okay. If you want a bigger store, you can go there. Okay, from my house to the junction, I will take 5 minutes. Getting to the bus stop there is a bus waiting for me. At that 5 minutes, to Jamaica, and get to my work. But here, most of them go to Abuja, they see all these things, they don't implement it here. Okay, look at the house now. They are talking about 70 billion, but they are not talking about masses. They should talk how they are going to bring out all these problems in masses' life. Let them give every local government authority, get those and convey everybody to wherever they are going. And again, go to each local government, have a shop where common man can go there and purchase. If it is rice, if it is yam, you go there, you don't need to give contract on your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Let everybody go to the local government and get whatever he wants to get. If other he says go and give it to that local people or whichever, they will hold it and be telling me, I went to the market today, rice is 48 naira. I mean 48,000, sorry. It's annoying, sir. Well, okay, when I came back from there, I established a business.
All right, Larry.
The business crashed down.
Okay. Okay, Larry, thank you very much. I think you've made your point about what you think the government should do. Well, he says, incidentally, even while this 8,000 naira business is still up for review, there are divergent views. He just said no, they don't need the 8,000 naira. I guess a number of people have spoken out about the cost of transportation, and that brings in to focus the attempt to convert some of these petrol mass transit buses to gas, and it's expected that those will also reduce the cost of transportation. Samuel is calling in from Benue. Right.
Yeah.
Samuel, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. My observation concerning all what they are saying. First of all, concerning the 8,000 naira given to the less privileged or to the poor masses, doing that will not allow to anything, that it will not even get to anyone. They will give if they are to give now, they will see that you are giving the money to the thugs or the politicians, and they will give their family few one and pocket the rest. Nothing will come out of it. You will not get to the right person, the right target, and they will be doing it as if they go to any local government, they will be doing it as they want. So the best thing, we are crying concerning fuel subsidy. What happened to Nigeria refinery that cannot be put in place? That for us to benefit, do it that we cannot even get access to them. That will be our management, our movement will be easy for us to meet up our necessary in going to farm, do some certain things. Last time they are distributing fertilizer, where they say they write our name to distribute the fertilizer was given to the politicians alone. The right people that write name, that they write their names, we just receive a lot, but we cannot collect. We went and joined the queue, no way out. one thing with Nigerian mentality, they think of how to do some things, but there is no provision, a clear provision for it. And when you get to only one person hand now, they say the money has gone. And we keep on crying. The truth person are not useful. A truthful one are not useful in the society. A wrong one that want to destroy or to steal, that's the caliber of people that they want to pick to be used in as a politicians. So if you look onto it, let them think about how to put our refinery in order instead of giving us 8,000 naira, no yet does anything.
All right.
The 8,000 naira will not solve our problem. We are crying how Nigeria, the refinery will be working.
Okay.
It's not to give us a 8,000 naira that they will share with India, but they will.
Okay, Samuel, thank you very much. You've made the point. And gentlemen, one thing is clear from all of this is that there is a challenge here, a trust deficit. Many people would not trust pronouncements of policies to trickle down the way it's meant to be. And there has to be a reason for the skepticism that's been expressed here. I don't think it's as much the matter of 8,000 naira being small, because that's been reviewed. I think it is more about, no matter what it is you're proposing, how do the people believe that it will go for the purpose it's meant?
Maybe I'll go. I think the issue of trust in our country has been a challenge as long as all of us can remember. The insincerity of leadership, but also the insincerity of we as Nigerians. The MD of SMEs just told us an experience of small-scale industries not being sincere to report exactly what they're about, only so that they will meet a criteria to collect loan. So it is either way. So if we, as Nigerians, we must begin to talk to ourselves very sincerely. When you want to hold government to account, you must be able to give account yourself. I have worked in villages. I told you experience of the cash transfer for women, pregnant women. Cyril, you will not believe that in our village, a woman will go and buy urine, positive pregnant urine, from another woman, tie in a sachet of pure water around her waist, come to the bathroom and offload and give to enroll on a cash transfer of 4,000 naira. This is how insincerity has eaten deep. But we blame government, which is okay because they are our leaders and we must. But we must also look within ourselves and begin to be very honest with ourselves as to what we want. Now you talk about the 8,000 naira. The question now is not only about trust. People say if it is 8,000 and given out, it must be to somebody that I know. Which then means if you give any of us as leaders, we will be looking at the people that we know to give the 8,000 to, right? But if it is not given to either myself or my brother or my family, then it means that the 8,000 did not get to the people that are affected. So we need to have to reorient ourselves and our culture in self-belief and the belief that God. But most importantly, our government must begin to institutionalize accountability structures and be both to be accountable. So for instance, Mr. President said we should review, but not only reviewing, he should also go ahead to account for the savings that we're making from the oil subsidy. How are we reinvesting it into the economy? The governors left FEC with jubilation of more money. The governors must sit and tell us, like my governor in Benue State, must tell me exactly what he has used the windfall of this month's subsidy allocation. And I should have access to ask my governor as well. he should give me access to also ask him the right question. We must bring the culture of accountability, believe in ourselves and our systems and our people, and begin to get rid of the disbelief and the mistrust. This is our country. We don't have any other country anywhere. My brother from Lagos that went to the US and worked, when he clocked 65, he came back to this country. All of us will come back. So we must begin to believe in our country. We must begin to ourselves be sincere in every given opportunity that we have. So if 8,000 comes to you, for instance, and you know that you are too comfortable and rich to collect the 8,000, don't just take it because it's a windfall from the federal government. Return it back to the federal government to give to the deserving person.
I think mine is, I kind of understand where some of these people are coming from when they say they don't need the 8,000 naira. Because I mean, the person also added, with the structure they have in Queens, in New York, you can, just take a bus, but, when you walk 5 minutes and all of that. So I think the whole thing is, if you do the math, if we're going to distribute, yes, it's under review right now, but I'm just saying, just for the purpose of this conversation, if 8,000 naira is being given to 12 million household for 6 months, that will come to about 645 billion or so. Now, if, for example, like something like say in my place that there's nothing hunger can do to anybody, the highest it can do is to make your head big. And there's nothing the eyes will see that it won't be tears that will come out. Blood cannot come out, it's only tears. Now, if we can bear for the next 6 months and say, okay, let's use these monies, because if we if we invest £1 billion naira in each local government today on industrialization, targeted structural industrialization, I know where we will be in the next 3 years as a nation. The poor people will become more productive, poor people will be engaged, they will have what to do in real terms. So I think we should all sit down and strategically look at how we're going to, spend some of these funds, because if we continue to look at it from that point of view, so I think that's where some of them are coming from. Then coming back to the society itself, there's stratas to how to build a society. First of all, you have a set of rules, and with the set of rules, that's the way people do things. Two, you have institutions, and institutions are those people who man those set of rules. And then the third one, which is most critical one, is the critical mass of an informed citizenry. Now, if you don't have citizens who are informed, educated, those who understand the way things are done, or how to even adhere to those rules, it becomes a big problem. And then the fourth one is the leadership. Please tell me, where would the leadership come from? It will still come from this same set of people who are not informed. So you see, you are in a vicious circle, and everything is still going around. So for me, I like what Margaret Thatcher said. She said, no good cause has ever been, you can't run a good cause standing by, I stand on solidarity. If leadership have decided to taking a decision to make things go right, let them set the examples. Nigerians will follow. If President Tinubu decides today that money, we're going to do one product, one local government today, people will still complain. But at the end of the day, as a leader, if you are sure, and your team, you are sure that what you're going to give to Nigeria is value, when you put it under a value proposition, it's going to make sense, please go ahead, and then everybody will follow at the end of the day.
All right, back to Zoom from Gombe State, and Jalo Ibrahim. Let's hear you in all the place. Well, if you can hear me, you might just need. Okay. Good.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Right.
I was muted already.
Yes, yes.
As my co-panelist just said, we just have to work together, and we just have to understand that this is Nigeria and this is our country. And the better we start to work towards getting this country better for all of us, we'll all run away and leave this country for those that, who felt that we did not do anything to help them. And it is all left for us, especially those who are opportuned And I think this period of time, because the removal, because of the removal of the subsidy, there's a lot of hardship across the country. So it's not only about government. I think the private sector need to come in also, so that all hands must be on deck to support families that are going through this turbulent period. I think we shouldn't leave it to government alone. And all stakeholders, not only the private sector, everybody should come to support the families so that we'll go through this period of time. I think this is my take on this.
Okay, thank you very much. And well, the trust deficit, which we said is evident in what people have said, both ways. People are skeptical about government being sincere, and government itself, from experience, a lot of the citizens have tried to hoodwink the government when it comes to provision of certain facilities. And an interesting example which you gave here, where people who were meant to access loans will not be truthful enough in filling out their details and giving out the required information. And from complaints of said, look, I tried to get a loan and I couldn't get it, perhaps because I don't know who the DG is.
It's actually a major issue, but from people that have been talking about the 8,000, what I'm taking away from it is not just about trust issue. Most of them, the feeling is that the money can be channeled to other things that will be more enduring than just giving 6 months palliative. You know, people have been talking about transportation, industrialization, and that. So if that quantum of money can now be channeled to things that will be more enduring and sustainable, you know, it will be more beneficial, because the issue of the 8,000 can be subject to, you know, man no man and all sorts. So to them, if it is channeled to transportation, industrialization, and like I mentioned when we started the program, even the issue of providing common facilities for SMEs in terms of so many areas, you know, common facility for packaging, common facility for production, common facility even for storage, you know, this will be more enduring. And then we'll have multiplier effects than just giving people the 8,000. So, but it's already been reviewed, so I don't want us to overflog the issue of the 8,000
yes,
naira.
but if you say that, we are also students of history. During Shopee, we bought buses. Where is any one of that bus now? When we removed oil subsidy before, they bought buses here in Abuja and everywhere. It did increase the cost of maintenance, cost of fueling, employ people. But where are the Air Rufai buses today in Abuja? Most of them, 100% of them are all parked, all grounded, less than 10 years. Right? So you're not talking about cash transfer in itself. And let's be clear that cash transfer in itself alone cannot lift people out of poverty. Other components and elements must come to play. You must invest in your infrastructure, roads, and give access to farm products to come out for sale. You must encourage your small-scale industries to thrive. You must put electricity. You must do other things. So when you save money from the removal of oil subsidy, channel it into other areas and sectors of the economy for growth. But in the immediate, give that which would help. And the government is smart. Government has released grains and foodstuff because they know people are hungry. This is the first step. So the first 6 months cash transfer is just a first step to try to cushion the effect. Then long-term investments in infrastructure, electricity, roads, right? And improved public transportation must come to play to ensure that we grow. If you then take the money, it takes you at least over 1 year or 3 years or 4 years of industrialization for that level of impact, right? In the interim, I am hungry and I'm angry. So give me food now, give me the cash transfer, give me the food transfer. But while you're giving it for the first 6 months, the government is saying, I'm investing in industrialization of every local government. So there must be a combination of both. We're not saying government do cash transfer and go and sleep and think that you've solved oil subsidy. No. Do cash transfer, but also invest in all the other areas of the economy for a holistic growth.
Okay. All right, let's link up with Alexa Wilcox. And what do you make of all this as we wind up?
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. I agree with majority of the submissions by my other erudite contributors. And for me, I am for positive growth. I am for responsibility in governance. Government must show character at this point in time. It is not a time when people are talking about high cost of governance and the flamboyancy that's been exhibited in governance. That is what will anger the people. I see like some people are complaining what National Assembly was talking about, buying bulletproof cars and all whatnot. At this point in time, yes, there is excess money. There will be excess money available to government, but they should resist the temptation of living such a ostentatious lifestyle that will anger the people. I want them to take more of fiscal policies. This is a time that, yes, workers' salaries can be increased, tax rates can be reduced at least personal income tax can be reduced, because right now the state governments that get personal income tax will now have additional so much money, just like one of the colleagues said, Benedict should come and tell us what he's doing with his money. Exactly. Now, a lot of people are refusing to pay, who couldn't pay the 30,000 minimum wage, have no excuse right now. Because now there is increased allocation, and there will be more, and to keep increasing as the day goes by. And so worker salary must be increased. Pensioners take home, some pensioners are earning less than 30,000 naira today in Nigeria. Some pensioners, very old pensioners, earning less than 30,000 naira. So those must be looked into. These are the fiscal interventions I want to see government. Taxes can be reduced. Rates on other rates like custom duty and all that can be reduced, so that you are not increasing the cost of importation when you have when the naira has taken a big bash based on the inflation, and then you still remain custom duty rates at the same level. Now you're getting from two ends, and then the citizen are the one that is behind the brunt. So these are fiscal interventions that you should do. I mean, they could be immediate, they could be short, and they could be long time, so that there's more money in the hands of people. And then state governors that directly deals with service providers must bring in regulation. Now, sometimes we say we're in a market-driven economy, but of course, a lot of things are regulated in the country. Bank charges are regulated, electricity charges is regulated. So why can't you regulate housing? You must come. You are government. You must come down heavily on Shylock landlords, because today a lot of people just. I know that most people in government, they own houses that they earn, but you must know that when you're in government, you are in government, and you are going to provide succor for the people. You must regulate transport. We provide that. In Lagos today, Agbero, those touts are the ones that fix transport. It doesn't have anything to do with economics. You just wake up one day and say, oh, so you just fix transport. These are interventions that the state should look into and see how to help the people not to be exploited by their own people. Because when you think that it's only government that exploits, the people exploit the people. And that is where government is, to provide protection and security for the people. So this must be looked into. So finally, I don't want this government to fail on this account of this is a bold step. The only time we reaped real benefit of first subsidy was during the Abuja era, when PTF was formed and the proceed was given to PTF, and till today we can see the relics of PTF.
Okay.
That's the only time we've gotten real value, because they didn't do cash transfer, but there was public works. And public work, because the infrastructure deficit is too much.
All right, Alexa.
And the unemployment rate is too much. So
we just about run out of time now, and thank you so much for being part of it, Alexa. Well, our time is up on the program, and I'd like to thank you very much for being part of tonight's discussion. Alexa Wilcox, a public affairs analyst who joined us via Zoom. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an utmost pleasure to meet all the other colleagues. It's a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to say a big thank you to Mr. Lawali Fasoya, he's Director General, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN. Thank you, DG, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Let us also say a big thank you to Jalo Ibrahim, Permanent Secretary Finance, Gombe State. He joined us via Zoom from Gombe. Thank you very much for being part of tonight's discussion.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cyril, a pleasure meeting you guys. Thank you very much.
And also a big thank you to Ogbonna Okuku, Investment and Economic Development Expert. It's always a delight to have you join us in these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you also to Apera Yoakwa, the former National Coordinator, National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, NASCO. Thank you so much for being on Tuesday Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We hope to see you again soon.
It will be my pleasure.
Thank you. Here. And thank you too for being part of this conversation, especially those who called in. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.